Hi, welcome to Positive Parenting. I'm Deanne Conrad, Community Relations Supervisor for the Sioux Falls School District. We're happy to have you here today as we work through some parenting questions that always seem to arise. We're focusing on school physicals today, the importance of those physicals, sort of the how-to for any students who are participating in activities. And then we'll also get to some other general sports and health-related topics toward the end. So I have guests here today to join me in this conversation. And Molly, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Sure. I'm Molly Satter. I'm the Health Services Coordinator for the Sioux Falls School District.
And?
Casey Miley, Coordinator of Athletics and Physical Education in the district.
And you folks work together closely throughout the year
Yes.
on a variety of topics, and particularly on those physicals and making sure our student athletes are prepared. And not just athletes, I should say, but anyone who's involved in a rigorous activity are prepared to go out and do that in a way that is healthy and make sure they have all the medical checks in place and such. So why is it so important, Casey, for students to have an athletic physical or a medical physical as they're coming into activity seasons?
Yeah, for us, it's twofold in the athletics world on why that's important to us. The first one is that line of communication is open between us and the medical professional who knows these student athletes so well, but it tells us through that communication on any conditions that may inhibit them from fully reaching their potential in athletics. So opening that line of communication to our athletics department is really big.
Yeah, so of course we want students to be healthy when they go out on the court, and then also to have that relationship already established should something happen during the season where they have that provider already a connection, a relationship established.
Absolutely, and those athletic trainers also help bridge that gap with that as well. So, and those were introduced in the middle school this year, and we've had those in place at the high schools as well. So just really helping and streamline that communication is really beneficial for all of us.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk more about trainers in a little bit. Molly, you come from the medical side of things. Why is it important from that perspective to make sure that kids are healthy and prepared for participation?
Yeah, well, we just want to make sure that they are healthy, that there's not going to be any pre-existing conditions. That going in and having that paperwork filled out and having that exam done is also can kind of open the door to some other things. They might have discussions with their healthcare provider about questions or concerns, or they're able to get their immunizations, can talk about some risk. There's a lot of risk behaviors in adolescence, as you know, and that's an opportunity for physicians to have discussions with them on that. So there are really a lot of reasons that it's good for those students to get in and get the clearance for sports, but also some of the other health benefits that come with that. So.
I'm not sure why it is, but all three of us are parents here, and it seems like the well baby checks are easy to do. You have certain pillars and milestones when you need to go back and get those immunizations, but then the kids get to be in the teenage years and you sort of drop off from those well checks. Or, okay, I'm speaking for myself. Maybe you guys are more clearly on top of that than I am, but I know it had been a while that I had my child in for a well check, and they said, oh, no, you got to do this before you can get the immunization and that kind of thing. So it is kind of a, oh, no, let's make sure all our T's are crossed and I's
to
are
get back
dotted.
in there for a checkup. And it's harder when they get older. Then you have their athletic schedule or activity schedule and all of that to work around. So but it's so important.
Yeah, so that is critical. And during an athletic physical, what are some of the things that people can expect? I mean, it's your basic height, weight, blood pressure kind of conversations.
Right. It's a hands-on physical exam. They're going to head to toe check you over, check your vitals. There might be some lab work. It kind of depends on what you come in and how you answer the questions, because there's a questionnaire that goes along with it. So if you voice concerns about something, you might end up having lab work and follow up. I mean, there could even be other testing that's done, heart testing if you indicate that there's family history of heart concerns. So it just really depends, but it's a good, thorough check and exam.
Right.
Yeah.
So over time, I know the district has taken different approaches to physical examinations and the requirements and such, and there was a change, not super recent, but something that parents might need to know in terms of how often students have physicals. You want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So in athletics and the age group that we're working with on a daily basis is those bodies are changing in adolescence on a continual basis. So just getting in at the middle school level, we wanted those kids to get in once prior to participating, and that physical will last through the end of their 8th grade year. But starting that communication at an earlier age for us was beneficial, so that we become aware with that age level. So when they're participating, so that we minimize that risk. But also at the high school level, it was every 3 years, and we didn't. The medical professionals came to us and felt like that was not often enough, so we went to the annual, and that's right in line with a lot of the high schools in America. About 75% of the high schools in America are on an annual physical evaluation, where we were on a triennial before. So like I said before, it just opens that line of communication so that we're all aware, so that we can better meet the needs of our student athletes in the district.
Right. So once upon a time, we used to kind of do wholesale physicals at the school, where everybody came and kind of ran through the system, if you will. Stop here, and then you go here, and then you see the physician and such. And we're no longer doing that, and there's a good reason for that.
Right. A lot of the literature out there has shown and said that that's really not the best. It's not the most conducive environment for a good physical exam. I already talked about how if you answer questions a certain way, you might need follow-up lab work or cardiac or heart testing, and that just can't be done in a big gym setting, obviously. So it's best completed where you're in a doctor's office and you can do some of that follow-up with the physician. So we feel really confident that having you get connected to your physician in the office is the best route to go for that.
Right. We know in education that making relationships and establishing that connection is critically important to the student's success, and this follows that same line. Making the connection with the healthcare provider is super important. So is it every student who participates in any activity, is it that they all need a physical, or which ones need a physical?
So our school board policy is that any interscholastic activity that is approved by the South Dakota High School Activities Association or Sioux Falls School District Board approved club. So not to get anyone confused, the best thing for you to do is go on the Sioux Falls School District homepage and find the athletics home, and there's 2 documents: a middle school document, which requires all the forms needed to participate in middle school athletics, and high school. So all those forms are listed on there, the athletics that you are involved in, on what exactly you need. And if there's any questions, just to minimize any confusion, I just encourage that you contact the middle school athletic coordinators at the respective middle schools, or the high school activities principals, just so you can get your questions answered on what exactly you need to get involved in activities in the Sioux Falls School District.
Right. So I know there's a debate or conversation over time about, well, this activity is strenuous. Why don't they require a physical for that? Or do they require it for this? I mean, do you require it for bowling? Do you not require it for marching band? That type of thing. And that's where that listing or those questions may come up.
Absolutely. So the South Dakota High School, an example of the one that is approved by the South Dakota High School, would be a basketball. A club sport that is approved by the Sioux Falls School Board is bowling. So they do need a physical to participate in bowling. But also we require it for powerlifting and things of that nature in the Sioux Falls School District. At this time, none of the fine arts do require a physical, but there has been talk from the medical community on why we we don't have those for marching band, because believe it or not, it is a really strenuous activity, and those kids are put out on a marching band field for a long period of time, and it's strenuous on those kids. So there is talk on the national level to maybe go to a physical in the marching band, but at this time in the Sioux Falls School District, that is not a requirement.
And certainly we would say that if a parent wishes to have
Absolutely.
their child, of course, you can always have a physical, and that A-okay by us. And indeed there are those long spans of time where students are on the marching field and moving this way, that way, joints and just even heart rates and all kinds of things like that, are pushed to the limits. And so it's not a bad idea, again, to have those
Yeah, absolutely.
or to have those physicals. So how many students do we have in the Sioux Falls School District who are participating in activities of any sort?
Yeah, so typically on an annual basis at the high school level, we have about 2,500 students, give or take, that compete at the high school level. At the middle school level on an annual basis, we have just over about 3,000 students that compete on an annual basis.
Okay, and that's 7th and 8th grade.
Yes, we just have 7th and 8th grade athletics at the middle school level. At this time, we do not have 6th grade, and then for the high school level, we're talking 9th through 12th.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so with 24,000 students and approximately, so you said about 5,500
Yeah.
participants in the 7th through 12th grade, it's a good chunk of our population. Obviously, we want kids to be involved because they develop friendships, and just what's the value of being involved in activities?
Yeah, there's a lot of value in that, but it just gives you a sense of community and being involved in that school building and all those type of things. But just really getting involved and giving back to your community is a big part of being involved in activities in the Sioux Falls School District.
And I think a lot of times it's an entertainment, as you said, giving back. So you're out doing something you love, but it's entertainment also for families or for alums who come back and want to see, how the team is doing and that type of thing. And I know here on K-Learn we live stream events, and we're able to broadcast some events afterwards. And so it's just a great option for kids. And what does that do for them in terms of their overall growth, participation in any activities, whether it's athletics or clubs or anything?
Yeah. Well, it's teaching them healthy habits too, and healthy lifestyles, and the importance of activity and team building and resiliency and all of those kind of things. So it's really important to build them as a person, and we get to enjoy the fruits of that when we get to go and watch the games and have all of that. So it's just kind of a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. So certainly we have a high number of families who have financial need in our community, and there are options available. If people can't afford to have a physical, that should never be the reason students don't participate in an activity. I know the Education Foundation has a fund available to help pay for physicals of students that have a financial need. How would a student access, if they have a financial difficulty, what have you shared with your athletic directors?
Yeah, the best thing for a student, if they feel like they need financial assistance to get involved, as you stated, the last thing that we want is this to be a hindrance for our student athletes to not get involved in athletics or any activities in the Sioux Falls School District. So I'd encourage reaching out to the coach or the athletic director at your respective schools, whoever you feel most comfortable. It's on a confidential basis. None of that information will be leaked out. It'll be confidential when you go to them, and they'll get you the resources that you need to get involved in our athletics in the Sioux Falls School District.
Yeah, certainly we want that participation, because it does create the healthy habits for life. It does create a sense of belonging and just a lot of fun also.
Yeah.
We mentioned previously trainers, and I wanted to keep that conversation a little bit separate from the physicals, because our on-site trainers are there to provide sort of immediate needs and care. They're not the people that are doing the physicals and that type of thing. We are lucky in the Sioux Falls School District to have great medical providers who support students as they participate. And even if issues arise, outside of that participation activity, but just a reference, oh, I'm feeling this or I'm feeling that kind of thing. Talk about the value of those trainers that we have and kind of their role in our school district.
Yeah, it's really hard to put a substantial value on what they bring to our buildings, but it is a really big benefit, and one that oftentimes we probably take a little for granted, but we're very fortunate to have the coverage and the relationship that we do with our two medical providers here in the Sioux Falls community. But the biggest thing for us in the athletic world and as coaches, it's the most reasonable and prudent way that we can minimize the risk of injury for our student athletes, so that it's an immediate impact to our kids in our buildings.
So they are on site for practices and on site for games. When might a student visit a trainer?
Yeah, so we're working on that schedule as we speak right now at the middle school level. We have morning and afternoon practices. It's an alternating schedule at the middle school level right now, and it's a work in progress. We're trying to get them at every athletic event that we have in our respective buildings. So if it's a game or an event, they're usually there. If it's a practice, it may alternate on a daily basis. If there's any questions on that for parents or students, make sure that you contact that athletic coordinator. They have a schedule, and some of them even have it posted on their Google pages that they have for each of the specific buildings, so that they can get that pinpointed at the middle school level. Our goal in the long run would be to, on a daily basis, to have one at each respective building, but we'll see where that goes with the medical providers that we have in the Sioux Falls School District. At the high school level, they're there on a daily basis. If you have practice, whether it be in the morning or afternoon, you're going to have your athletic trainer there, and at every one of our events we have an athletic trainer for those events. So at the high school level it's a little more prominent. We're working on it in the middle school level, but this is the first year that we did it in the middle school and heard a lot of really positive things, and it's already started to build relationships with those athletic trainers, and it's really helped us in those areas.
So having somebody on site that can assess something quickly from the medical perspective, certainly if there's an immediate injury, you want to look at that quickly, determine if it's something, oh yes, you can continue to play on this, or no, I notice swelling, that kind of thing. Why the importance of that immediacy?
Well, as we know with a lot of injuries, the sooner that you can identify what's going on and get the help, stop playing if you need to, the better you'll be in the long run. When you think about things like concussions, the sooner they can identify that and get that student on the path to healing, the better. And so to have a trainer there, someone who's trained to be able to identify those kind of injuries is just very beneficial in getting the athlete back on the field or the court as soon as they're medically able to. So
right, and concussions are something that we know are very serious. There's continues to be research upon research about how the brain develops and what happens when there is a significant blow, and so kids who have experienced something like that, really not to be hidden or kept from mom or dad. And as a parent, I'm always constantly questioning and making sure, because I'm not there at every single practice, and sometimes not even able to get to a game, if schedule doesn't allow, or one of the other kids has something going on. So what should you be talking about with your kids in terms of how they're feeling, whether injury, like what kinds of questions should you be asking?
Yeah, all of our stakeholders are more educated than they ever have been, and that's a benefit to all of us in athletics because our kids are getting what they need. Like I stated before, it minimizes the risk so that they can get back into the athletics and the activities that they love the most.
Yeah.
But just opening those lines of communications, and I think it's gotten better over time, where in the past, a student athlete may have not felt comfortable because they didn't want to be held out of that activity. But now
Mm-hmm.
it's a little more comfortable, a little more confident approaching and communicating those needs. Hey, I'm feeling a little different here, or all
Right.
those type of things. But ultimately, you got to make sure that you're comfortable with going to that person, opening those lines of communication so that we can get you what you need and get you taken care of.
Yeah, just not acknowledging it at the onset can really lead to an extended period of
Yeah.
healing instead of just a minimized
Right.
time, particularly in the concussion area and that kind of thing.
Right. And having parents, themselves be somewhat familiar with the signs and symptoms, having that communication with your child to let them know it's okay, to let us know if you're experiencing this. And the sooner that you let us know, the sooner we can get you on the path to healing and back into your sport. So, and I think it has gotten better over the years as far as, kids being more forthcoming and letting you know. And the identification of concussions has been better or increased just because of the education that the healthcare community has, the parents themselves, and students. So it's more frequently identified, but because people are better educated on it. So,
And I think, one of the things I hear often is, we see so many more ACL, knee injuries, particularly in girls, and I don't know if that's true or not, but since I have two girls, I hear that often. And that the piece that trainers can bring also is that stretching and exercise for strengthening also.
Absolutely. Well, as our athletes progress, we're getting bigger, faster, and stronger in everything that we do, both female and male.
Sure.
So the likelihood of maybe getting an injury or those type of things is increasing. But bringing that athletic trainer to the school, just to kind of capitalize on it's another observer too. So if that student isn't really feeling as good, they also know that because,
Sure.
hey, Johnny's not acting quite as normal today
Sure.
at practice, where that coach may be consumed with just getting practice and the task at hand, but
Yeah.
the athletic trainer may see that. But those athletic trainers also bring that, a lot of important pieces with stretching, nutrition, hydration, all of those type of things. So not just stretching, but the benefits of stretching and how it can help minimize the risk of injury, but also hydration and also eating well. Hey,
Yeah.
a bag of Skittles right after practice is probably not going to be the best thing for you. Go get hydrated, get that protein and those supplements back
Sure.
into you so that you can get back on task
And stay
practice.
healthy
Yes.
and prevent
Yep.
those risks. And yeah, I think we do know so much more about the impact, the positive impact those things have, as you said, hydration and that type of thing on the body in general, and just how your mind works when you're properly hydrated. And there's just a lot of good information out there now that we're benefiting from that we didn't really know about
Yep.
over time. So one of the other issues, and it's not just an athletic or activities issue, but certainly one that knows no bounds, is tobacco use, vaping. And we are seeing increasing numbers of students who have reported that they've used tobacco or been vaping on a regular basis. That is not allowed for anyone under the age of 18, and certainly not for any student involved in an activity, because that does compromise the breathing ability and everything else that goes along with a properly functioning body. So what are your coaches, do they bring it up? Do they talk about what's not good and what's not going to be tolerated for student athletes?
Absolutely, and that's one thing that I really appreciate our relationship with Molly and her staff. They've given us the information needed to make good, informed decisions to our students and to properly communicate with them. Her staff has given us tools and resources to educate ourselves so that we can have those proper conversations with the student athletes in the district. But I mean, not only are there activity rules that are going to take you away from those activities, but it's just not good for your body and for you as a person in the long run. And we really, and ultimately at the end of the day, that's what all of our coaches and us administrators want for our student athletes, is what's best for you and for you as a student athlete. So our coaches are taking those steps and that information and properly educating our our student athletes, and at the end of the day, it's an interscholastic activity, it's an educational activity, so we want to make sure that our students are properly informed on what they
What the
put into their
consequence-
body
Right.
and the effects that it may have
Yeah.
in the long run for you as a person.
Right, and then the consequences that come along with that. If there is use and it's discovered, then there are consequences where you stay out of the activity. It's all about choice, really.
Yeah. We have annual activity rules that are that vaping and the use of tobacco as well as alcohol or any drugs are encompassed in that policy, and it's going to take you away from that activity that you want to be involved in. So there's levels and categories that vary based on a case-by-case basis, but it's ultimately going to take you away from that activity.
And best situation is you don't want to get caught, then don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to stay out of your activity, then just don't do it.
Right.
I know you guys have spent, as Casey said, a lot of time gathering resources and providing information. What can you share with parents who have students in activities or just have students in general about this trend and the alarming concerns that go along with it?
Well, it is alarming, and it, as you mentioned, it knows no bounds. So I guess the notion that any particular group or type of child or student that's involved with vaping should kind of go out the window, because it really has, we've seen it with athletes, we've seen it in students in other activities, just across the board. It's just concerning that the number of students, teen students who are using vaping products, and obviously the health concerns that have come up are very concerning, and the long-term effects we really don't even know at this point, because it's so new and there's just not enough research out there. So we are just trying to educate parents, students, staff, so that we can keep getting the word out, and just kind of dispelling that notion that it's not bad for you and that it's any particular type of student, because it's just out there and happening far too frequently.
Right.
So,
And you do hear about it being such an addictive piece, and that can happen to an athlete who tries it one time, or oh, I'm just going to do this off season, and then season comes around and you've got that pull that brings you back, and that just starts to sort of spiral. And so best case scenario is just be vigilant, parents, be looking for things, devices that look like they're maybe shouldn't be there, that look like a pen but it aren't a pen, look like a USB drive but aren't. I certainly am not aware of absolutely every device that's out there, and I know I've walked through a parking lot and seen, now I know they were cartridges for the vaping pen or what have you, but didn't know that at the time. So just always be cautious and curious.
Yeah, and they just keep coming up with different devices and ways in which they can be hid. And so, just, like you said, being vigilant and looking for those, and talking with your student. I mean, really having that open communication with them, and if they are struggling, if they are vaping and they want to help with quitting, reach out to your school counselor or your school nurse. There will be no discipline or punishment for someone coming forward and asking for help.
On their own. Very good. Well, we've covered a lot of topics here today. Ultimately, all of them have to do with the health and well-being of our students, which is something that we're committed to and want to work with parents on, so that we can provide the best quality education to your students, best opportunities for their success. And so thank you both for sharing this information with us today. Hopefully our viewers have learned something along the way. And again, if you have questions about physicals and what's required, please check the Sioux Falls School District website for more information about that. Lots of other good information on there as well. Thanks for joining us today on Positive Parenting.